Hello, welcome to Belgium, a place that is well known for Fritz and mayonnaise, terrible techno music, the heartland of cycling of course, and a man that, well, plenty of up and coming superstars get likened to. Eddy Merckx, a man with 525 wins to his name, Giros Tours, World Championships, you name it, he's done it. And also a name that adorns bikes, or has done in the past. Eddy Merckx started out having a bike brand in 1980, a story which I'll come to later because it's pretty damn interesting. Unfortunately, the name's not been on the scene as of the past couple of years. The pandemic messed things up and the brand took a little bit of a rest. Well, it's being relaunched now, revived, shall we say. So let's take a first look at the bikes. This is not a review video though, because, well, we were supposed to ride them, but as you can see, the weather in Belgium isn't exactly ideal for sending 20 journalists out together and not ending up in the hospital. Right, let's crack on. Right, I've come in from the cold, got me coffee. Let's go through the lineup, because it is a pretty deep lineup. There is 5 bikes in total. Right, top of the shelf, the pure race bred bike is the 525. This thing is going to be used by the Team Baloise Flanders setup, a team that's been around for well over 2 decades. But yes, this 525 is an all-round race bike, shall we call it. It's not light, it's not aero, it's a little bit of the two. One interesting thing about the 525 is that it only takes 28mm tyres, something that seems, well, quite skinny in today's road market. And the reason behind this, so we are told, is that these bikes were developed prior to the COVID situation. Obviously that caused havoc for a lot of people, and it's also why this brand hasn't been about on the scene for a couple of years in any big way. In them few years, obviously tyre widths have grown, so yeah, 28mm seems a little bit narrow for road bikes today. Right, on to the next pure road bike, the Mindresio. This is their endurance setup, available in 5 sizes. Again, a few design choices that are questionable, including tyre widths again. The next in the lineup is the Pavel, an all-road road bike, one that should be at home on the gravel and on the road, or at least dabbling into the gravel. A bike that's very similar, I suppose, as Ridley's Griffin. This thing though doesn't just come in carbon, there is also an alloy and a steel version available as well. Next there is the Strasbourg, a bike that is their pure gravel machine. Plenty amounts on there and clearance for a chunky 53mm tyre. Lastly in the lineup there is the Corsa, a bike that really excites me. This is the one that I think's the beating heart of the brand. It's built here in Belgium, not by any old person either, by Johan, I'm not even going to try and pronounce his surname, a gentleman who, and this is where the history comes in, a gentleman who back in his school days had Eddy Merckx come into his classroom and say, right lads, who wants to come with me and learn how to build a frame by a certain Mr. De Rosa and the guys over in America who ran the Lightspeed company. Well, Johan put his hands up at the age of 16 and said, that sounds like a reasonable excuse to quit school. And well, he's been with the brand ever since, producing the tie and steel road bikes, and now the all-road and gravel versions. Fingers crossed I'm going to be getting one of these in for test at a later date. But yes, you can get an all-road, road and gravel version of this bike, and they look absolutely gorgeous. Now we've been through that extensive range, let's talk about the brand itself, where it is, where is it going, and whether I think they've done a good job with the relaunch. Well, a couple of days since I was in Belgium, weather's definitely changed, hasn't it? And in that time it's given me plenty of food for thought about the brand. Right, let's delve in then. Now, Eddy Merckx himself, as we know, is a massive legend within the sport, but does the name still have that same clout cachet as it did in the 90s, early 2000s? And I don't think it does. And how does that affect the brand? Well, why don't I think it has that same clout? For several reasons. Cycling's changed, the culture's changed over the past 10 years, hasn't it? It's not all about racing now. That gravel scene's exploded. Well, Eddy never did any of that, did he? There's people who ride bikes now, road bikes, gravel bikes, who don't watch cycling, who don't know the history. So that Eddy Merckx name to a lot of people will just be a brand name, like Trek, Specialized, Ridley or Beer. It's not going to have any big meaning behind it, unfortunately. Heck, perfect example of that is a few years back, the Tour de France had a stage start in Lourdes, not far from here actually. And as it being a place of pilgrimage for a lot of people, I thought I'd ask the peloton if cycling was a religion, who would be God? I was expecting Eddy to be number one up there. He didn't get one vote. Tom Boonen was the main man in the running that day, if I remember rightly. I'll link the video below. So, if the peloton of today don't really see Eddy as the god of cycling, then I'm guessing the public don't either. So yeah, that name, not as strong as it used to be, but does that matter? Well, I don't know. I don't think so. It's just nice to have that history there though. Something that they can use as marketing. Now, personally, when they announced that they were going to be relaunching the brand, refreshing the brand, I was hoping for quite a niche premium product. And yes, there's plenty of premium products in the lineup, but I was just hoping that they were going to really narrow it down, just do the steel and titanium frames that they have previously in small batches, custom batches, and leave it at that. Obviously, that's not really feasible if you've got bills to pay, if you've paid good money for the name, for the brand, and need to get your investment back. So that is obviously why there is quite a large range of bikes, why there's carbon, race bikes, endurance bikes, all-road bikes, gravel bikes, and even e-bikes coming. And as I found out recently, mass-producing carbon bikes is a damn sight easier than mass-producing steel or titanium, believe it or not. So yes, Eddy's back. It's got a big range of bikes, and that big range at times I think can get a little bit messy. The 525 looks a fine racing machine. Like I say before, it's a little bit behind the times with them 28mm tyres, well, quite a way bit behind the times, but though I have a feeling that we're going to see something else later this year that might supersede it. Same with the endurance bike, a little bit behind the times, but once we get to the all-road and the gravel bike and they do it in steel, aluminium and carbon, I think things get a little bit messy there. I think they could have tidied the range up a little bit better to make things a little bit more simple, and especially a bit more simple once you start plumbing that stuff into the customization program on the website, so you can change the colour, the group sets, the specs, the wheels. That could give you a headache. Obviously, I'm very happy to see that there's custom bikes still available, made by, well, the man that helped build the brand with Eddy. Oh yeah, and stay tuned for something on that. But all in all, I'm glad to see the brand back, the name back in the peloton. The other thing I'm glad to see is that they're doing those retro sonic colours, as they call it, limited edition runs of old team paint jobs. The first up is the Panasonic team colours of old, so I suppose we've got the Kelme, Motorola, who else am I probably forgetting, to come at some point. Now, if you're watching this in the US, I'm going to upset you because the bikes are actually going to be available over there, which isn't the first time, is it? Because if I remember rightly, Motorola, when they were riding Eddy Merckx frames, had a different name on the down tube. There's something to research. Now, prices, they're pretty fair and square, I think, in line with what the market's asking at the moment. In fact, a little bit cheaper than some bikes out there as well. Aesthetically, well, each to their own, isn't it? I can say some of them I think are absolutely gorgeous. The jury's still out on that rear stay of the 525 and the Modesio. But all in all, I'm liking what they are doing. I'm glad to see the name back. and I think you know my feelings on the custom build stuff. Right, that is about it from me. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Let me know what you think of the bike. Let me know if you think I'm being an idiot about where Eddy sits in the pantheon of cycling's culture today. And as always, thank you for watching and enjoy your riding.